Hi. This is a really great project. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Michael Connor from Rhizome, and we are a programming partner this summer with FreeRollFile. We got to do another of these earlier in the summer for their prior exhibition, which was also full of really exciting works. But I really love this one in particular because we have an especially fun and juicy topic, which is the 7 deadly sins, serving as the structure for an exhibition of new works by 7 artists, each one representing their own sin. So we're here to talk about sin today. And I think like the concept resonates with me. We're going to hear from Mac in a moment because there's really so much kind of fear mongering about the internet right now. Age restriction in the UK and things like this that make for a definite sense of like the internet as a kind of forbidden fruit, which in some ways is maybe what's interesting about it. So I'm going to turn it over to Mac to introduce the topic of the exhibition, and then we will hear from each of the 7 artists, or 5 of the 7 who are with us today.
Yeah, I mean, I think you introduced it pretty well. The exhibition is Net Evil. It's an exploration of evil and sin on the internet. I think artists, or I guess for these artists involved with technology and things like that, we have a very generally optimistic view of the internet and technology and how useful it's been, particularly for digital art and all sorts of things. And I don't know, I found I was sort of inundated with this sort of utopia of oh, it can fix all these problems, but there are legitimately bad things going on the internet, right? There's a reason for all this fear mongering and all this stuff, and I thought it would be interesting to focus on that for a bit. And also it can lead to a lot of kind of fun and engaging work, right? So when I was thinking about the way to structure a show that would deal with bad things on the internet, there is already this kind of moral code separating all the bad things, which is the 7 sins. So I thought that would be an interesting framework to do it. So each of these artists is representing one of the 7 sins, vaguely inspired or directly pulled from how those sins manifest on the internet. So it's much more of a sort of thematic thing, tying it all together. There's a huge range of medium and style and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, that is Net Evil in summary. Yeah, I don't know if Michael, if you just want to turn it right over to the artists to introduce their individual works. I mean, I can click through them, or I could start that as well. You're muted, sorry.
Which sin should we start with?
Let me see. I think let's start with, well, who's at the top of the page here?
I was going to suggest maybe Sloth. Oh, we don't have Damjanski here.
We don't have Damjanski, but I can talk about it. Let me talk through his work.
Yeah, why don't you do that since we're hearing from you already?
Since he's first, right, I'll start with him. So Damjanski has released Napster 24. So Damjanski has released quite a few artworks. He's an artist based in New York. Quite a few artworks based on this idea of sleep, right? So he had this app called Napster where you could sort of find a place for him to nap, and then a 3D version of him would show up there. So he was naturally the first one who I thought of when I thought of sleep, but he took it to much a darker place than I thought it would with Napster 24. So on August 8th, 2025, Damjanski took 24 naps, which basically means he completely disrupted his sleep schedule. 1 nap every hour. He would sleep roughly for 10 minutes an hour. He started at 12 a.m. and he ended at 12 a.m. the next day, basically. And these pieces are based on data from a sleep tracker that he wore while he was doing this, and he used them to visualize. So they mean all sorts of different things based on sort of how deep the sleep was, how long it was, all these different little metrics he used to visualize them. So it took a relatively dark turn for what I had initially thought of, oh, he's sort of fun sleeping artist. So I thought that was very interesting. So this is Napster 24 from Damjanski. The whole idea, or at least one of the ideas that he spoke about with me, is this idea that sort of the internet can fracture your sleep schedule, right? You can be up having to do something on the other side of the world. Maybe there's remote work. There's all these sort of reasons and ways in which the internet changes based on the time. There's different people on at 2 a.m. than there are at 9 a.m. It's all these different places. And that sort of fractured sleep schedule is what he performed and then used as the basis for the data to create these artworks here.
So it's kind of relating to optimization culture a little bit.
Yes.
People, there's a lot of people talking about like the importance of sleep to good health, and
Yes.
and I think there's like the positive side of it. There's also maybe the like like obsessing over your body's metrics to the point of measuring nighttime boners and all of that stuff
Yes.
that we can get into too.
And then there's sort of like, intentionally torching that for the sake of an artwork, right? To be able to do that, which I find interesting as well.
Cool.
Yeah, that's Sloth.
Maybe we can go from Sloth to, should we do Wrath next?
We can go to Rhizome.
I'm looking at Lorna here. Hi, Lorna.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Straight from RGB MTL. I really wish I could have been there. How was it?
It's a big, goofy love fest. It just has nothing to do with selling or promoting. We're just looking at art on incredible screens and CRTs and happy to see each other. So it's definitely not NFT NYC, that's for sure.
And it's not this. We're here to sell. Support the artists. Get in there. Put these in your wallet. Show that you're simple. Lorna, what have you got for us for the Sin of Wrath?
Oh, well, when I was first invited to do this, I thought, I'm sure I've got something I can throw in, But then I don't know how it happened, where I first noticed it, but I ended up doing a deep dive into ballistic gel dummies. And these are really expensive, like molds of human bodies. And the more expensive ones obviously have blood inside and some kind of armature. Some of them have muscles. The blood colors change, depending on, where you're getting it from. And there are there's this incredible wealth of guys testing weapons on these. So, I've got like swords, axes, guns, bowling balls, baseball bats, anything you can imagine that's going to do damage to a human body, they're throwing at it. And the other great thing is that for this particular footage that is on YouTube, they're slow motion. So there's so many more frames and everything's like crisp. So even though they're incredibly detailed and like have like so many little bits of blood and chips of bone, they're so clear and crisp, there's no motion blur. So that like it was fun to actually cut them out. It's not always fun cutting this stuff, but they're like, if you don't know, I just cut things. I take GIFs, I abbreviate them as much as possible, and then I just cut them by hand, frame by frame. And that for these ones, these were taking about a week and a half each, some longer because of the detail. And yes, slapping them on a colored background or a black background, and there you go, Wrath.
Thank you, Lorna. So you're doing these frame by frame. Have you tried to not do that, or is it like part of the fact that you have to look at the frame like this?
I really wish I could automate the process.
You wish you could. So the discipline is not itself a virtue.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it is. Because when you're that close to an image or like, a set of images, a sequence of images, I'm able to think how I would place them in a collage. So you're into it. You do a deep dive into what is in front of you, and that focus, is a big part of what I do. But I when it comes to automation, the amount of decisions I make for every frame and the different decisions, I can't really instruct someone to do it. It's so peculiar, and it's peculiar to the animation I'm using. It's peculiar to the image. It's peculiar to the, whether the quality of the initial photographic or video image. So all of those things require a human brain rather than a machine brain at this point.
Yeah. Well, in particular, your human brain, in order to, yes, to cope. But I'm curious, Mac, why did you choose, I feel like you somewhat cast Lorna against type, obviously very well known for pornographic gifts as well.
Yes.
Was that, was it because she had this body of work that you were aware of, or was it,
Well, I think it depends on the timing, because some artists chose, right? And then some artists were sort of assigned by necessity. And Lorna, I believe, chose
oh,
rap.
she chose, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's of course like there's the pornographic work, like the penis being stuck in the trombone or whatever, something I'm very familiar with, and all sorts of things like that. From Lorna's work, not in general.
But maybe that work is not about sex, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like what I was looking for with all the artists is sort of like the willingness to engage in kind of like unsavory or dangerous things, right?
Well,
I think
the right person there.
yes, but I think they've all done it in some way, right? It's just in totally different ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lorna said rap, and I said sounds great.
Well, lust wouldn't work for me because, like,
No.
the sexuality in my stuff is very burlesque,
Yes.
cheesy sexual innuendo.
Mm.
So, it's not really lust.
It doesn't end up sexy. Yeah.
No.
Very, very, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's very absurd and sometimes a little bit horrifying.
Oh, definitely.
Burlesque is not exactly the word I would use. I'm going to look back at it with that word in mind. Lorna, would you like to choose the next sin for us to visit?
Oh, I absolutely loved Maya Man's envy.
Can we go to envy?
Thank you so much, Lorna. It's really cool to hear about your process from you. Yeah, this is envy. Well, the piece is titled Hard Copy. I've been thinking about this piece for a really long time. When the news story broke around this case between Sydney Nicole Gifford and Alyssa Shiel, I was totally enamored by it. It's one influencer suing another for copying her. And when I found this court document, I just thought it was so beautiful, one of the most beautiful documents I'd ever seen in my life, and completely absurd. And so when I was talking to Mac about what sin to choose and what piece to make, I was really fixated on this idea of envy and how it's kind of like an emotion that underlies a lot of the work that I make, which I think it's an emotion that underlies a lot of forms of desire on the internet. But it was really fun to think about this. And then for a while I was like, should I edit the PDFs? Like, should I extract the imagery from it? Because the imagery is so interesting. But ultimately, I just felt like the document untouched was so perfect visually and so absurd that all I added to it was my digital signature in the bottom right corner, which is how I sign every document people ask me to sign online. And it's behind me, installed in my studio.
The hard copy.
The hard copy. Yes.
Yeah, this would have been great we recently did our 7-on-7 art and technologist collaboration program. And this year, all of our technologists were lawyers. This would have been a great project.
Yeah.
Context.
Very in the similar world, yeah.
But one of the things like I gleaned from talking with all of those lawyers was like how much law sort of I guess shapes what we think of as art or creativity, or like kind of encodes it. And it's really fascinating to think of the arguments taking place here, which are kind of easy to dismiss, but then also people are building big businesses and putting time and passion into these creative decisions as well. So maybe we can, I mean, is it about envy, or should we be taking these influencers more seriously at face value with their claims?
I think that's what's so fascinating to me about it, is that it is about envy, but I was talking to my friend who is a lawyer, one of my best friends, and she was saying that, well, you know, isn't it kind of the intention of an influencer's job to get other people to copy you? That's kind of the job description. And so in a way, someone copying another, like an influencer copying this other influencer, is sort of like the purpose of influencing. But this case was widely circulated in the law communities, and, you know, colloquially known as the sad beige lawsuit. And it brought up a lot of questions around digital ownership and questions around copyright. Can you copyright an aesthetic? Can you copyright a personal vibe? But, you know, these are words that people use so naturally when they talk about the way that other people post online. But in this document, everything is laid out in this extremely clinical way, which is what makes it amazing to me. And you know, like everyone owns a sweat set like this. I mean, not everyone, but, you know, a lot of influencers, like it's kind of like this unspecific, basic aesthetic, but also people should look through the document. I've spent a lot of time with this document and I have my own thoughts. You know, there's some really amazing moments, like when Alyssa gets a tattoo of a flower in the same place as Sydney on her arm, like a few days after Sydney posts about it for the first time in a long time, this one. And you look at the dates at the bottom, January 29th, 2024. Then February 9th, 2024. Alyssa comes out with the same tattoo. So it's kind of, you know,
The anxiety is
interesting. So
this is amazing.
Yeah.
I want
exactly.
to dive into this more, but I think we have to move on to gluttony, because Dadabots is not guilty of the sin of sloth.
No.
They have a job and they have to use the call early. So you have to do that work to feed that gluttonous appetite. You want to talk us through this work?
Yes. So yeah, gluttony, which is the like excessive consumption to the point of sickness. We wanted to make that tangible and experiential. So yeah, just a little art history context, the rise of computer art. But this doesn't just bolster digital media, it also bolsters danger art and experiential art and what Matt Dryhurst calls protocol art. And coming from art blocks, where the art blocks protocol makes the HTML file the centerpiece, which is of course great for generative visual art shaders. But, you know, ask like, what else can you do with an HTML file? You can do a lot. You can embed things in it that can be downloaded. So yeah, here Phat Phonk. It is a mixtape that has been splintered into pieces.
Does that come through?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. And so the game here is to assemble all the pieces of this mixtape into the big 24-minute release of this genre, Phat Phonk. Phat Phonk. So yeah, Phonk is a hip hop derivative style of music, which is chopped and screwed and slowed way down, and it's gone through many revisions and evolutions. And here we've made it beefier, more metal, more harsh. It grows and evolves over time, and you really feel like some monsters eating something. But the game of assembling it is not easy. In fact, it may even destroy your computer in the process. Each of these contains what I learned is called a zip bomb, a very, very large, a very small zip file, which when opened and expands to fill a large amount of space. And during this process, I'm like, is there an easy way to make these? I asked ChatGPT, and it's like, it refused to tell me how to make them. And like, no, this is zip bombs. I can't tell you how to do it. So instead, I actually got a very large hard drive and manually made these zip files by taking small MP3s and just adding junk characters and multiple times zipping them. The largest one is 29 terabytes, and no ordinary person is able to open this. But you know, in the experience of trying to even listen to what music that you like is contained in the piece, you run into many questions of gluttony, right? Like one, I'm the artist taking up your space, just consuming it. But two, like your hard drive, like what's in it? It's full of software bloat, temp files, cache files. Like, why is all that software being so gluttonous? And also, like, why are you storing all those TV shows in there? And yeah, meanwhile, this log, it's sort of a fantasy of like if an agent was running your computer, like what was this thought process as your computer starts to fail? And it's kind of funny, like even on MacBook Pros, if you try to expand the zip file, which it won't be able to do, it tries. It starts expanding it and it'll just completely fill your hard drive. Your computer starts slowing down, everything crashes and then reverses. I'm like, I don't know why Apple lets you do that, but it does.
That's amazing. Are we looking at one of the 70, or is it just in terms of the work that's on Furo file?
Correct. Yeah, this is one of the 50 here. That big.
It's not 70. Sorry.
Yep. That download button gives you your personalized zip bomb.
Got it.
I'm scared.
You don't. But when you buy the work or when you collect the work, you don't have to download the 70 terabytes file, 29 terabytes file, or do you?
No, you don't have to. But the first person to assemble all the pieces into the full mixtape, uncorrupted, will get a prize.
Ooh, a prize! You should have stored all of the zip files on chain, just written them. That's cool. So can you give us any hints to like get us started with the game?
No
No.
hints.
I think it's
just
like
you get
brute force.
It's brute force. It's yeah, it's a puzzle, but instead of steganographic, it is like about contortion.
So you need to get like a giant hard drive, download them all, and listen to them one at a time, mashing them up with the audio. That sounds, yeah, not that you're giving a hint, but that sounds like that's what I've pieced together.
Yes, that's correct, and
it's definitely beyond the capabilities of my personal computer at home.
Yes.
Yeah, you surely will be brought to the point of sickness if you attempt.
Too much.
Dadabots sponsored by hardware manufacturers around the world.
Yeah.
Cool. I like the terminal aesthetic here. Is it something you've used before in your work? This kind of like programming language.
You know, for this piece is my first, and it makes a ton of sense because this is day to day how I'm creating these things anyway. Well, actually, in our live performances as Dadabots, we do live coding and algorithms.
Nice.
And we're making music with code live to an audience of people dancing, and we show our terminal window as we're parameterizing our neural nets to make music. And yeah, just kind of become our aesthetic.
Oh, cool. Yeah, this does have that kind of behind the scenes feel of live coding, performative feel. Do you want to choose the next deadly sin?
Yes. Let's go to Stevie P.
So that would be greed.
Yep, it's greed.
All right, let's hear from greed.
Yeah, so several months ago, Matt came to me and he's like, Steve, I'm running through some dire financial straits here, and ETH is really underperforming, and I just need a way to manifest some wealth into my life and make some money. So I was like, Matt, don't worry, I got you. I know exactly what to do. So I decided to embark on this metaphysical journey called Money Vortex, which is partially inspired by I guess one of my favorite niches or sub niches of YouTube videos, which is, well, I guess you have the niche of these general manifestation binaural beat videos where the idea is you play one frequency in your right ear, another frequency in your left ear, and they're slightly different frequencies. So the way your brain puts it together it kind of feels like there's this weird beat, and I mean, there's all total bullshit, but I really like the idea, and it's all very fun and soothing and relaxing to listen to. But the idea is like, okay, well, if your right ear is playing 440 hertz and your left ear is playing 430 hertz, then your brain sort of triangulates a difference of 10 hertz, and then that affects the patterns of your brain waves. And somehow this is a way to subliminally reprogram you to change your behavior in certain ways, or metaphysically it changes your vibrations in a way that will affect your life experience. And of course, there's a subgenre of this genre that's specifically about wealth manifestation, which I was attracted to. And I think the first one I came across was several years ago. I came across this YouTube video called Luck Vortex, which I borrowed a lot of the aesthetic from, and that it was definitely Vortex themed. And it had a sort of like a 4-leaf clover image, and it said Luck Vortex. And it was this very soothing, optimistic video that you watch. And a lot of times I just put it on the background and I really enjoyed it. Just without explicitly manifesting wealth. But yeah, I think like in general, it was an interesting theme to dive in. It was interesting to dive into this with relation to the theme of greed, because I don't know, it's just weird, because like if you watch these videos for a long enough time, you kind of get this weird like cognitive dissonance where it's like, okay, I'm sort of floating through this grand metaphysical space, and like the kind of overall vibe here is that like, oh, nothing matters except for where I am. It's this very Zen experience of being centered, and it brings you this like metaphysical peace, but at the same time there's this undercurrent of like, yeah, but really it's all about making money here, and this is the thing you should be manifesting. So yeah, it was just an interesting and fun project to undertake, and it's also been very lucrative so far, because ETH has been doing really well since I started, I guess, picking the outputs and spending a lot of time manifesting. So, the proof's in the pudding. And as I was explaining to Mac the other day, if you would like to manifest your own wealth, I have found that this works very similarly to transcendental meditation, where you have your own personal mantra that is given to you. So I would suggest really you have to purchase your own money vortex, and if you manifest using your money vortex that you purchased, then that's the quickest way to manifest all sorts of levels of abundance in your personal life.
Can I click and play the sound for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Great. It's quite soothing. So Stevie P claims that this doesn't actually work. Does anyone want to fact check that? Like maybe an artist from the West Coast want to come in and offer a different perspective on this method?
Well, I feel like it works it only works if you believe that it works, and you because that's really what manifestation is all about. You really have to buy into the vortex.
Yeah. There's something about the word manifesting that's like so sort of like tricky, because so many people, the kind of messages everywhere are that you have to manifest this sort of thing. It kind of puts this incredible personal responsibility on people we're all kind of like locked in this system, which is a very bad game, which is, I think, something that I get from, your kind of practice as in general, Steve, is like just the, it's like this kind of the game of money is rigged in favor of certain players and against others, and it's all kind of like, there's something very, very cynical about it. But I think what this project does, which is maybe a bit different than some of the others, as far as I understand, maybe you would see this differently, but there is something that is kind of like spiritual about money. Like, it's so high on the symbolic order. It's like, it's in your subconscious, it's in your dreams, it's in your relationship with love and your parents and everything. Like, it's just so woven into like the very innermost parts of ourselves. So something like, this kind of like way of dealing with it feels like a little bit of a departure, but maybe also like taps into another aspect of like the way that money is kind of so inside us all the time.
Yeah, I think there are probably two ways that I think you could read this project, one of which is sort of like, as you're saying, maybe it's like the less cynical version, which is that, like in a lot of ways, because like a lot of the affirmations that I used for this project were affirmations that I found in actual wealth manifestation videos and techniques. And, some of them are really dopey, and they talk about your, like, removing patterns of lack in your spiritual DNA, and they get like really far out there. But I think a lot of them are also just around, maybe they're a little bit more abstract than just money, and they kind of boil down to, more base concepts like abundance and just sort of like, feelings of being secure in the amount of resources that you have. So I think, the less cynical approach might be to sort of view it as a legitimate meditation piece where you just sort of, you stare at the center of the vortex, you breathe, and you sort of focus, you just sort of tell yourself like, it's okay. It's like, I have enough resources to live. As long as I'm still breathing, everything's fine, and it's not worth worrying about money. And then I guess like the more cynical approach might come out where if you stay on any of the money vortexes long enough, eventually you'll start getting pop-up ads, which I think is, I don't know. I think like, to me, a lot of this is like, sometimes I'll be watching one of these videos and like a YouTube ad will interrupt it. Or if like, sometimes if I'm just like trying to relax, I'm listening to ambient music in my bed, then like, my internet cuts
Right.
out.
You're guaranteed to get an ED ad in the middle of that.
Yeah, it's just like there are all these like reminders that like, okay, well, it's like, even though I'm trying to have this very kind of grounded, like meditative experience, it's still kind of being mediated by some third party that like really what they care about is making money. So at the end of the day, they're kind of like commodifying this idea of meditation or manifesting wealth or what have you, and trying to sell it back to me. But really, at the end of the day, they're sort of the ones who are manifesting the money and making money off of me directly or indirectly in some way.
Nice. I think we just have two sins left: pride and lust.
Pride and lust.
Pride and lust. Anne, do you want to go next?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I had lust, which I love, and I feel actually a lot like Lorna in the way that most of my work about lust is often comes out like awkward and cringy, but maybe also that's what like lust is anyway, so it kind of works out perfectly. But so for this project, which is called Annie's Phantom Obsessions, I'm continuing the life of this AI I've been working with called Annie. My name is Anne. Her name is Annie. So she's like an Annie AI. And she's not, I don't consider her like autonomous. I consider her I consider her me. She's the version of me when I use AI. So like similarly, in the past, I've like considered my performance self, like who I am on camera. That's me when I'm on camera, which is a different person than me off camera. So now my AI person is this whole other person, and I've chosen her to be like a tween, because uh, um, because I love tweens, and I with my work, I really am obsessed with like emotions and manipulating people's emotions. And I feel like in your tweendom years, those are the years where you're just like so emo and have all the biggest emotions. And so that's why that's a playground for me, is that time. And then also I've been thinking about I've been thinking a lot about crone core, which is something I just invented, which is like thinking a lot about like crones and the aesthetic of like crones and what it means to be a crone. So I think of myself as the crone in this situation, like a Mother Gothel type of person, and the Annie AI is kind of my young Rapunzel that I'm like sucking the life out of in order for like me to stay young. And that's kind of how I view AI. It's like, I'm getting older, I'm fucking dumb, like I don't have anything left in me. But like when I use AI, like I'm way smarter, I can do more, I'm like way more creative and can make like way more interesting things. So that's why I use Annie AI. And then so for this particular one, I decided that she should have crushes, because that's like obviously so fun to like have a crush. And that's like something like I wish I could like have crushes and like be in like Crushville and Crushland all the time, because it's so fun. So I started giving her all these crushes, and I was using ChatGPT to make the images, but ChatGPT was like really sensorial about like what it would make images. So it wouldn't let the Annie AI have a real crush. She was only allowed to have an imaginary crush, an unreal crush, a fake crush. And I just thought that was so weird. And I also thought it was very repressive of the AI to not let its own self like just even have a real crush. And I was really into that like repression, because for me, repression is actually the thing that fuels desire, fuels lust. So it makes you like desire even more if there's some kind of repression involved. So it's like repressing itself, but like in doing that, making itself even hornier. So I was into that dynamic and just having it have crushes on girls, boys, aliens, non-entities, angels, devils, just everything.
And what do you mean it wasn't allowed to have a real crush? Like if you uploaded a real picture of a person, it couldn't have a crush on that person? Or
so that, but even if I was like, make a collage of your crush, it would be like, sorry, like you're not allowed, like no entities, no tweens, nothing is allowed to have a real crush, but you can have an imaginary crush. Like, would you like me to do something where the crush is imaginary? And I would be like, sure, do that. So that's why it's called Annie's Phantom Obsessions, because she's not allowed to have a real obsession, whatever that even means in this context, because it's already so far removed from reality anyway.
yeah. Is that so? That has to do with like is it about like it's like an AI safety like safeguard that they put in?
Yeah, I think it's to protect kids, but like the premise of Annie in ChatGPT that I'm using is already that she's not a real kid. She's an AI tween. So I already prefaced the prompts with like, you are making this as Annie, an AI tween. You're not even a real kid. So there's already a layer of like, it's not real. And then it's, again, okay, well, not even this fake AI tween can have a real crush. But the output kind of ends up the same anyway. It's just weird.
Fascinating. I mean, so you said you tried to use ChatGPT. Did you say what you ended up using? I might have lost that detail.
Yeah, it's ChatGPT. So Annie's
It is ChatGPT. So
Yeah.
even though you worked around the restrictions with ChatGPT and within the repression.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes I hate censorship because it's censored a lot of my work in the past, but in this case,
Yeah.
it was like a fun thing to like work around, and also then you just have this repression in there that's very sexy.
Amazing. Thank you, Hen. I think we have one more sin left, which is pride. Are we on pride?
We are.
Pride. Let's hear from pride.
That would be me. Yeah. Speaking of pride, it's a little hard to go after such incredible artists. Yeah, Mac hit me up. I don't want to say how recently because it's a little terrifying to think about. But I was definitely a late comer to the show, and as usual, my answer was at first. At least internally, no. But I got on a call with him, and Mac's energy was so infectious that it was he was kind of pulling me in. At the same time, I was trying to think of what could be good for Pride. Pride is an interesting one. I would say my work, in as much as it has any cultural critique, which it doesn't always, would usually be more greed focused. I'm glad Steve got that one because this project was much more interesting than whatever dribble I would have come up with. But anyway, Pride is an interesting one because, I think when you think of like biblical pride versus how people view it now, I mean, a lot of communities in some ways have reclaimed pride, and it's a good thing, and the instantiations of pride that I see as negative on the internet or usually viewed as negative are usually, kind of filtered through another one of the sins, right? Like someone's like flexing their Lamborghini, and that could be like greed or maybe a tinge of envy, or maybe there's like lust or whatever. And so, it felt like I needed to sort of distill it down to like the base thing, the base thing that one can be proud of, which is just their identity, in its purest sense. And so celebrity felt like a natural fit for that. Celebrities have existed before the internet, and this is a show about the internet. And so I started to hone in on these celebrity selfies. I didn't really have much of a thesis for it. I had already been playing around with the sort of mirror motif. Previous to this vein of thought, I was working on, maybe an idea with these things called a first surface mirror, which is like a scientific instrument quality mirror that gives you like a perfect reflection of something. But yeah, I started to look at these images. The first one that I looked at was the Kendall Jenner one. And, it's interesting because it struck me that, she was in a bathroom. It was a banal bathroom, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. Really just the most banal, nondescript room you could think of. But the image is loaded with so much like identity and context. And, I look at it and I immediately am thinking of everything I know about her and her family and, just all of these associations. And then I got a little curious about, where she is and what is happening here. And then I was struck by this, desire to just see the room without the person there. No hate to Kendall. Did I say Kendall? I think that's Kylie. I don't know. This is embarrassing. I don't know which one it is. Kylie. Oops. Yeah. So I just started erasing it. And I sent Mac a very, very crude version of just the erased one. Well, first I stared at it for like 5 minutes, trying to figure out if it was interesting or not. It felt interesting to me, but it's like, couldn't tell if it was just in my own autistic sense or if other people would find it interesting too. But I sent it to Mac first, and I was like, look at this picture. And then I let him dwell on it for a little bit, and then I sent him, the non-erased one, even the reveal. And that felt interesting too, because, that was him going through this sort of journey in the opposite direction of me, right? It's, he's seeing the room first, which I never can because I'm the one who had to sit there and erase it. Yeah, so then that sort of morphed into this idea of these video sculptures, or whatever you want to call them, video pieces. The images themselves, I thought, felt interesting and kind of hilarious to put out there, just because they do look so boring, like they could be part of any one of our lives, and you don't really know what the context is. But I wanted to reinsert these people as themselves instead of as their, instead of as their these characters that they play in our cultural sphere. And so, and I also, I wanted to sort of have a balance of the original image and the sort of erased version. So I got this idea of just like flickering them in almost subliminally. I mean, I wanted you to be able to see who it was, and then in order to sort of metaphorically insert the real human back into the frame, they're flashing out a pattern that spells their legal name. So far, everyone has to take me at my word because no one's figured out how to actually decode it. I mean, it's pretty simple Morse code, but it's like a bit of a custom thing. I do have a script that I had to use to make sure that they were actually encoded correctly, which they weren't up until the night before we minted everything. So I'm glad I made that script and fixed everything. And then, yeah, the last layer is the length of each piece is scaled roughly to approximate their Instagram followers. Got a little complicated with like name length because we have to use legal names. And for example, Kanye's legal name is 2 letters. And then some of these people have very long names. So there were some compromises made there, but overall, if you plot them, it's pretty linear according to their Instagram following. So yeah, I mean, I think that's about it on my end. And I have no idea how long I've been rambling for about it.
That was great. Thank you. Yeah, the spaces are fascinating. And I'm trying to think, like, it doesn't, I mean, the backgrounds really, like, in some cases sort of totally undercut the person.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases it just sort of like, I don't know, extends it or something. But yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting like way of, I guess, recontextualizing these kind of moments. What did you like? Have you worked in this way before, this kind of image alteration or like recontextualization? I guess it's similar if you like recontextualize an object. You're also kind of like changing its role. And
yeah, I mean, no, I would say this is a pretty big departure, and not only have I not worked in this way, I mean, I haven't really worked off of a prompt that someone else gave me before, which is a big reason why I was a little hesitant at first. My process is usually coming up with a bunch of ideas, and then kind of by the nature of the kinds of work that I do, usually self-censoring like 99% of them, just being like, wow, that's really stupid after a week of mulling it over. It turns out that I work pretty well with a very energetic and motivating force. So I might have to hire Mac. But yeah, this was very different. I mean, in some sense, there are some elements that I'm sort of some elements of the process that I'm repurposing from some other bodies of work. There's one that I did called Seed, which was using AI imagery. This one isn't, and I guess I can talk about that a little bit too. I tried immediately when I sort of crystallized the idea. I was like, well, obviously I'm going to use AI. It's going to save me so much time. But I felt pretty strongly that I needed to get like a sort of objective view of what the background looked like and not have like any artifacts. I wanted like patterns to continue. Like you can see here, just this random one with the molding behind him is like continuing, right? Some of them, I think which one were we just looking at? Some of them have like a tile pattern or behind them, or they're including like an entire room, or you can see part of a piece of furniture behind them. And I could not get any AI tool to come up with anything even close. So we ended up having to do all of these by quote unquote hand. I mean, still using technology. But we were sitting there trying to determine what the things behind them looked like and how best to represent them using a bunch of different tools. Mostly ended up being, Photoshop. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I would say if you look through some of them, you can notice like little quirks and artifacts. no human can ever perfectly recreate reality. And some of these were pretty complex to do, but I'm happy with how they turned out.
Cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me a bit. I mean, these are works that didn't involve like specific erasure, but just in terms of like giving us a way of looking at the images differently. It kind of reminds me of videos or films like I think William E. Burns's The Fall of Communism as Seen Through Gay Pornography, and then Los Angeles Plays Itself by Tom Anderson, which are both about like taking one set of images and looking at them to see something totally different.
Yeah, I like that reference. I keep getting Paul Pfeiffer, which I'm definitely inspired by.
That'd be a good,
And I was going to say, I'm hoping that Paul sues me so that Maya can make a work based on our, cease and desist that I get.
Yeah, I'm going to call that one very unlikely, but we'll see. We'll wait for the lawsuit to come through. I have a link to those videos I mentioned. I'll just put it in the chat here. You just
definitely.
have to connect your wallet to see them, and then
Right.
just
Michael and I, well, I guess I shouldn't say this because it makes me look stupid, but Michael and I had been talking about maybe talking, and he said he sent me a scheduling link that I need to connect my wallet for. And, in my defense, some people do have things of that nature, and I do know how to connect a wallet without getting it drained. And I would have used a burner, but anyway, he was just punking me, and I reacted sincerely, and I'm very stupid.
I think it's exciting that we live in this new world where people kind of connect their bank account to social services for no good reason. But that was really interesting. I enjoyed that was a deep dive, and also we've done all 7 works, I think, right?
Yeah.
What should we take? I don't know if we can actually like easily take questions from Twitter, but is there anything you wanted to like bring out as a kind of reflection on the artist works we heard from Mac? Or
I think we had a pretty good overview. I know you mentioned a couple of times, like, I'd love to dive into this again about, Maya's work and one of the other works. So if you have any follow-ups, I think that would be great. We've got some time.
I think, we need to see like a 90-minute film of the lawsuits, like plotted out one at a time. But Maya, is there like one more visual detail you want to share from the lawsuits that we would miss as a casual observer?
Okay, yeah. A detail I really like, well, there's a lot of details I really like. Wait, I'm looking for the exact number. Okay, on number 40, hard copy 40. So what I really like seeing in the document is the kind of like a lawyer perspective where they're building an argument for the case here. So something I like here on the side, it says flower clip and white boots do not come with the featured skirt and shirt set. So what they're pointing out here is that defendant got the set, but not only got the same set, but she also added these flower clips and white boots that did not come with the original set. So they're building more evidence that like this is like beyond just ordering the same thing. So, and little details like that. And also this one also has one of these red circles on it, which seems like it's just hanging like left over from like in the wrong place. But there's a lot of red circling on some of the other editions with like the Amazon storefront list, like the editions 61, 62. I really like those because they're circling the same items, same beigey items they have listed on their Amazon storefronts. But yeah, it's really cool to hear about everybody's work. I feel like, obviously this is a show about the 7 sins, but in everyone's work, there's this kind of like earnestness and about human desire in all of them. And that's how I really feel about this piece too. Like they're both just really, really trying at this influencer thing, which is it's quite a complex practice for people. And I think the defendant, both of them are kind of you see them struggling. Like you see the struggle present in all of these posts. And I think some of the copying and infringement kind of comes through this struggle and this earnest desire for success. So And the medium, it was important for me that the medium is PDF of the actual work. So it's very interesting to me that kind of opens in this like PDF viewer, because the original medium of the work is, of the full PDF is obviously PDF.
So we're all on the plaintiff side, right? Team plaintiff.
Wait, what?
We're all on the plaintiff side, right? Everyone.
No, I'm on the defendant.
You're on the defendant side?
Team
Yeah.
Melissa.
Like if this plaintiff
Really?
wins, like any high school girl can sue like any of her friends. Like it's crazy.
That's so true. That's so true. Like this is how things, it's how like, it's the natural way of operating, is wanting to copy what you aspire to. I'm trying to remain ambiguous.
I don't know. I just think
And I
that, like,
am honestly ambiguous.
what's that?
Hmm.
I missed what someone said, but I think that this is like systematic wholesale replication of someone's whole project, you know? But whether that should be a legal matter or just a matter of like, you know, a troll war or something is another thing.
Totally.
Um,
Well, that's kind of my thought also, because then my layer is, my piece is a systematic replication of someone else's project. And now I'm calling it my own also.
seems like if your own
Yeah.
level.
What?
Seems like you might be guilty of your own level of sloth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, I mean, Amy Adler in our 7-on-7 talked about how, basically the entire, she was a big Richard Prince advocate actually. So she would have definitely the fact that, this was transformative use and counts as its own new work of art.
Yeah.
So congratulations, you
Yeah,
made
I
an
feel-
art.
Yeah, looking at stuff, pointing to things. So
And now all of you listening get the chance to own this art. So with that, maybe we should wrap up and let people get over to the website.
Yeah, I just
Cool.
want to say apologize to everyone. Apparently one of my 87 open tabs was YouTube. That was the cause of the echo earlier. Thank you so much for being here, for listening to our talk, to the artists for being here, and Michael for, as usual, wonderful moderation. This has been such a fun exhibition to work on. I think it's about a year ago, Mac, that we started talking about it now, and it's been really, really wonderful to see it all come together. So if anybody has questions about collecting or the artworks, you can email me at lauren@feralfile.com. You can DM the Feralfile X account or Instagram account. I'd love to talk about the art with you. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you.